Hopefully, people can hear us. Today is 7 p.m. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Are you out there? Let us do a check. What will this show be about?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this new podcast where we will be talking about plasma and what is the correlation with plasma and survival mode or thrive, like the difference in between thrive and survive, and how do these are related to the plasma body mainly, because yeah, we hear about plasma more and more and more, and it's for a very specific reason, a very important one actually, and it's a huge upgrade in the body. I mean, the plasma has always been there, and we will later on be talking more about what plasma is for the ones that don't know yet. And plasma has always been inside our body. Nevertheless, as most of our biology hadn't been fully used. So when we get to use it, to unfold it in a higher potential, then we get to feel and experience what being a multidimensional being is while we continue to be humans, but way more evolved.
Yes, this show will be about plasma. Check, check. Anyone can hear me? How's the mic? Can you hear us out there? Is the sound good? Let us know in the comments. So, yeah, today we will be talking about higher dimensional plasma and how to bring it in for greater consciousness, as well as getting out of survival into thriving. How are you doing? And how's everyone out there? Put in the comments and leave your questions. Feel free. We ask, whatever we get asked, we usually answer. Thank you, Becca. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Feel free to check yours as well. But so,
Yeah, I don't know where my chat went.
okay, I'll set it up. But go ahead. Can you tell us what is plasma? How do you play with it? What is going on in plasma world?
Well, I'm quite sure that you all remember when we went to school, for the ones that we went to, and that they just taught us three states of matter, where there are actually four, and plasma is considered the fourth state of matter. So mainly, what we can listen through the common, as like in the common stream, is that plasma is an overstimulated um, current that actually becomes as a star, like as the stars. Stars are full of plasma, and the sun is plasma. So the result of that overstimulation of energy generates the plasma. And it's also considered to it's
Just checking.
it's also considered that the plasma is matter. That's why it's the fourth state of matter. Nevertheless, when all these solar flares come into the air, to touching the magnetosphere, then creating all those magnificent aureoles, we get to see this. But what happens after? Does it stay there? Or does that information come unto some extent to our electromagnetic field? And of course it does. Do we perceive it? Is it visible? Is it matter? Well, we don't get to commonly see it, but we're capable to, actually. depending on the level, on the scale of consciousness we are experiencing at that moment, on the level of consciousness, we are capable to perceive it actually. And when you get to see some particles of light suspended in the air, I'm not talking about the dust that reflects into the sunlight or the sun rays of light. I'm talking about other particles that are like flaring all over the sky, all over the space. They're filling in the space, and that is plasma as well. So is plasma very evident? No. That's why it's we're only capable to truly activate our plasma body when we rise our consciousness, our frequency, and we are capable to perceive beyond the evident. So, yeah, do you want to say something about it?
Well, I just set up the chat, so it looks good. So let me know. If you got any comments out there, and if you have any questions. So yeah, quite a bit. It's kind of, if you don't know much about plasma, it's electromagnetic spectrum, and all elemental states are all connected in various ways. And I've heard concepts of that plasma is a more free-flowing expression of elements and matter and consciousness, and matter and the other three states, solid, liquid, gas, are slowed down forms of it. And they have the plasma has the combination of the physics of it, as well as there are higher dimensional functions that we can't quite see connected to plasma, that people just hypothesize is as a higher dimensional form of plasma, or whatever you want to call it scientifically. As when you see those photos of the universe that look like connection neurons of the brain, and the nebula and the dust clouds, that includes plasma and light emissions, the stars, fire, lightning, weather in space, the cool different types of lightning that are like called sprites and halos, and the aurora borealis, the thunder, electric universe theory, plasma universe theory, and the lightning currents in Project Thunderbolt between plasma discharge between planets. The nursery of stars and how that's made, the currents of these big storms in space, the different borealis concepts of different planets. All this is connected through plasma. Of what is seen, there is unseen plasma and higher dimensional plasma, and there's theories of it having consciousness because it has reactions, such as what is displayed with ball lightning phenomenon, where, like, I can bring up a clip maybe. I'll look one up, but where it just goes around, can go through walls, zap people, can interact and speak to people, and does physics that don't make sense if you were to think it doesn't have consciousness.
Well, yeah, actually, when I was talking about how there is also plasma suspended in that space, that 99.99999% of what is not evident, then we can question ourselves, because there is a very interesting question here, like, is plasma and ether the same? Well, there are new theories coming in the field, like the electric theory and that the magnetic field.
Yeah, electric universe theory.
The electric universe.
I don't know if anyone can see that. I'll play it for the other views
Yes,
too,
I love that.
where it just goes across the train tracks.
Here they don't.
And it can float, levitate, discharge, interact with people, phase through objects.
Yes, and like imagine that sphere or orb expands its rays all the way infinitely. Then it's interconnecting, like Sean was saying, through synapses, like as a neuron interconnecting through rays to other orbs, to other spheres that are visible, that are not visible, and then interconnecting it all, because we saw that sphere and it's quite big, but imagine that they go at all scale, the Planck scale, Schwarzschild scale, and they are all interconnected, expanding electricity. Because actually what happens with the plasma is that the molecules get so compressed that they cannot be more compressed. So then they start to expand through electricity. So we also have that going on in our body. For instance, every cell in our nuclear membrane, there is plasma. And there are a lot of mitochondria there. So what is now the correlation in between plasma and our mitochondria and free energy and ether, which actually was canceled out for a while, just brought by all the mystic field and esoteric field as the fifth element or the quintessence, and now is finally accepted. And yeah, it could relate, as how I perceive it, it can definitely relate to the plasma. Even though plasma is considered as the fourth element, fourth state of matter, the fourth state of matter. And aether is called the fifth element. The aether interconnects it all, as well as the plasma. Actually, if we are talking about all Nikola Tesla devices and how he was designing all that quantum machinery, well, it's quite related to the plasma. So, for me, aether and plasma are, we could consider it as that which is interconnecting it all, and that if we access to it, we are accessing to unlimited energy, and that's inside us, inside our bone marrow, inside our cells, our mitochondria, bone marrow, spinal fluid, and all the process of neurogenesis, and then interconnecting to the stars. Because if we say that plasma is what constitutes the stars, and we have plasma just not fully active at the moment, then we're also star or stellar. Our body is constituted by stellar particles, by plasma.
Yeah. And also comets emitting plasma as they go through space, or things that when aircraft touch, like re-enters the atmosphere, and so many particles hitting it, friction, pressure, what creates, the process of what in creating fire, also involved, as well as when you have those noble gases in a tube, and that artificial plasma, the arcs between, there's so many physics to it, how to display, but this is physical, this is visible light. So there are other types of currents that can be created, as well as every element, and branch into the higher forms of consciousness, expressing themselves. Um, so there's a concept in that I'm tuning into with this in plasma magic, of what can you do with plasma. If you want to create and be your own shining star that emits tons of energy, the solar plexus is big on plasma. The spirit, the fire within, the soul. Magic has certain aspects in plasma, and you can convert plasma into many different types of energy. It can fuel a lot of things. So it's also consciousness. A lot of consciousness in its dynamical form seems to take on the physics of plasma and higher dimensional plasma. And that also done in old alchemical translations of the spirit taking on the element of fire, as well the motions with water, physical body with earth, mind with air. It's interesting how it syncs up with how it is. And we had a question: is plasma and ether the same?
The same. Okay, go ahead.
I'd say everything's connected, and the big major difference is it's not seen. And so that goes into the unseen plasma aspects.
Thank you.
And ether is kind of a word that blankets everything in the unseen in types of subtle energies. So I don't think I categorize there's more than just one type of ether, but if you want to get into the concepts of chi, ether, vril, prana, ki, all those are big aggregate amounts of subtle energy that's not seen being generated in some way, shape, or form. So the multiple intentions and what it does in a circuit, in an operating system, then can go into more finite detail of definition wise. But yeah, the ocean of plasma is all around us, is everywhere. It's one of those types of energy that can be tapped into more. And then if you know how to convert it, you can turn it into magic or other things.
Yeah.
What would you say to that question as well?
I already answered it, and it was
Oh, you already did. But I didn't answer it. So.
Yeah, but now that you were saying that, a very easy way to put it for me is, if ether is considered to all that there it is, the essence, to say it somehow, and as Sean was saying, everything comes at scales. So plasma is the key to interconnect us all as an extension of through that electricity, which bridges precisely into the somehow considered Bose Einstein, which is getting into the 0 point, known as the 0 point, and the maximum point, that bridge. So for me, that's the deep interconnection with ether. Plasma connecting the alpha and the omega somehow, to say it, so, and actually the ether would be the alpha and the omega together, everything, the essence. So for me, that's the big key. Yeah, so thank you for asking me again. And yeah, speaking about that and ether, for the ones that are into Egyptian cosmology and also astrophysics, there is this very ancient code, which is known as the Isis knot. And a lot of people consider it as a talisman. Most of the scholars that go through the old school, and when it comes to the codes of the hieroglyphs, if we, in addition to that, take into consideration united physics, and all this technological aspect and also the spiritual aspect, then we see that the pattern of the plasma coming from the sun and hitting into the earth generates precisely that knot. When we talk about knots, and I'm going to explain it from a cosmic aspect or point of view, and also from a very daily basis point of view coming together. A knot is generated when we are talking about gamma waves, when we are bending the energy. So that's plasma. It comes the energy so super excited, to say it somehow, after being compressed, is like boom, it expands. So that generates bending the energy. And the knots are bent. And when we are capable to do that, we're capable to create all kinds of miracles when we bend the energy. And we can do that. We actually can do that. So now about the knot in a spiritual way, it is said that our spirit comes into our body through a very precise process where the energy within our electromagnetic field bends, and then it generates like this huge portal in which our spirit comes through. And that's where, when the DMT is generated, like mainly in 2 times, we can generate it nonstop if we know how to. But the DMT, I'm talking about that known as particle of God or God's particle. And that's why it's generated when we are born and when we die, because that's when the spirit comes through, like those main aspects of alignment of those like as a multidimensional body coming together, and then by accessing or exiting actually the physical body. So what else? And the shape. So why would the shape of the solar flares coming into the earth would be precisely the ISIS knot? And well, we're talking about bending the primordial form of energy, which talks about the spirit. And why the primordial? Because the stars are very important. The stars that we get to see, they're huge pillars and anchors for this simulated reality. If we know how to use them within our body, because they're embedded within our blueprint in a very specific form, then we're not only activating our plasma body and expanding our potential, our energy, being more energized, having capabilities of regeneration in our cells, and rejuvenation, the same and regeneration in our neurons and so forth. We're also accessing to the capability of expanding our level of consciousness as a wholeness and actually transform our reality as sovereign beings.
Awesome. Yeah, and going deeper into this, you can use and convert plasma into healing energy and rejuvenate the body, everything that's physical, everything that's in your light body, which is a lot, and the spirit, the soul. You can heal all that and purify it and make it stronger and build density. There is going into the concept of your higher self, your source connection, the source field, and there being this big cloud of consciousness that connects everything, like a more advanced tree with all the branches that connect to everyone and everything, and every type of consciousness, old and young. It permeates and connects to everything that you see physically and visibly in light and everything perceived by the brain is all this interconnected network. And that is going into the attachments of plasma. There's also, other states of matter that are like the Einstein-Bose state of matter. It's like the fine white particles, atom. And there's other theoretical states of being. And even more to the Purok table, because gold has the white gold, the green gold, the red, blood red dragon gold. So there's more than just the Purok table. And for each element, and it's everything is conscious. And so there's with the higher self being like this big ghost, energetic aspect of yourself that does chess moves around the planet, remember who you are, past lives, does things, extends out the body. But then there's older ones, extensions of what a part of its construction is plasma. So there's a plasma type body, plasma self, plasma field of consciousness. That's like that brain, that giant universal brain that we talked about, of interconnected stars all together and beyond, and that, because that's the physical light aspect of plasma. And it grows with you. There's a part that's in your body, compressed in your body, coming off your body, field, density, all that. But then there's the field that's already existed long before this body, aspect of your consciousness that the cells, the organs, the antenna of your DNA, your brain neurons receive like a radio or a TV with an antenna. And it brings in that consciousness. And that's been observed, proven in science with self-receptor cells. You take a cell, shave off its self-receptor cells, it becomes like a stem cell, a blank slate. If you replace the if you give your organs or limb to another person, the body might reject it. Sometimes it doesn't reject it, but then you start integrating it, you start changing behavior. You might crave something you never craved before, but the other person did. Like you really like pickles now, whatever. And that's part of you receiving a signal of consciousness having to do with that other person in your body technology. And with the cells goes deeper, but you can shave off the cells. And if you were to replace the self-receptors on the cell, they would now receive the new self-receptor cells consciousness. Because you're not, consciousness isn't just in your body. So you're beyond that. You're in a whole field of plasma existing. And so it's good to interact with that and figure out how it works and go deeper into the physics and then start integrating that plasma self. So what does it want? What is the goals? What is it? How does it interact with the body? Well, like I said, we're receiving signals. We're also a big storage capacitor. So as far as I've interviewed it, and it's given me large amounts of pressure on my head to like give me like all kinds of information about it. Its main goal is to integrate more and more of the plasma into these bodies to compress a density. So with that density of any type of energy that you're gaining in capacitance, it allows you to do more with it. It allows you to power more of the technology of the DNA tech abilities, powers, have more capability, more access to your consciousness, more memory, more knowingness, more understanding of the truth, more towards growth and ascension, getting out of lower density, lower consciousness and into higher amounts of capacitance and consciousness, bliss, love, joy, lightness, understanding, connectivity, unity, resolving all your things, reality warping, miracles, magic. All this comes with it in symptoms of increasing your density and detaching from the crap that attaches, that limits the ability to integrate more capacitance. So that's what it mainly wants is, hey, integrate more of yourself through the DNA antenna, get rid of all the limits off the DNA, because there's a lot that try to stop us from integrating more and decreases our speed at which we do and our ability to receive more of ourself. And it's constantly growing. Our self is constantly growing. Our plasma body is growing. The part of ourself in the particle field of source or whatever, plasma waves or whatever you want to perceive it as, because it's pretty much everything, is constantly growing as well. And it is not something that can be depleted, so it will be constantly growing. So you can constantly increase how much of yourself you take into the body, and it wants that. And it's got a hidden, I guess you could say, a heart or core that is in yourself has in a secret place. What you chose that to be, it has to do with how safe, camouflage that is, in which you can generate more of that plasma, that energy into the field of your consciousness, that source. It really has to do with source connection of your consciousness going back in the branch and tree of it all. And that can be helped, made stronger, faster at generating, be able to help you more, help your life, influence things. And as you work with it in this current of being its avatar and integrate more of that, then you're definitely helping it, and you're helping the overall consciousness in the universe entirely. This has many other symptoms, which I'll go into, but go ahead.
Yeah, I am quite sure that most of the people that is watching this show has heard about the Lemurians being all these shining bodies, and also about the shining ones, these beings with which body is luminescent. Well, they have reached that level of plasma expansion within their multidimensional constitution that they are capable to transmit as light. And we are capable of that. We are definitely capable of that. It is a process, of course, yet the root, the core to it is the same. Imagine that in our body, that would be the function or the goal of our mitochondria. If all our mitochondria, thinking of them as consciousness, come together and start to restore all of their DNA. Imagine that our mitochondria DNA, and for those ones who doesn't know yet, mitochondria is becoming more and more renowned for its like high evolved functions, such as having a different DNA from our cell, such as being the power source of our cell, such as being the brain of our cells, and being that the ergo being those generators that interconnects us to the space memory. What is the space memory? It would be this field that Sean was talking about, where all the information is suspended and where we are capable to access to all those higher forms of consciousness and bring it and translate them into our body and embody them. Meaning by this, when we activate our plasma body, it's much easier to interact with all the information suspended through the plasma, through the plasma particles, accessing to that information, enlightening within our body through our inner sun, which would be the solar plexus that Sean was talking about. So, and as well through every mitochondria that is in our cells. And there are 1,000 mitochondria just in each cell in the nuclear membrane. So imagine all those all those mitochondria empowering, and igniting into their full gens. Right now, we only have 37 active gens in the mitochondria. We're capable to activate 850. So how do we get to do that? There are in like only if we see the chromosome, the shape of the DNA in our mitochondria, it is connected to the zodiac wheel. To say it somehow, it's all embedded together to the 14 constellations in the zodiac wheel. How? Well, you can do numbers and it all comes together. And yeah, I could go more into all the process of creation of how the human blueprint was generated through the tree of life, and all of that, besides all the information that it is connected with, all that was generated through plasma. When we were talking about this holographic field, when we were talking about this geometrical field, we were talking about this luminescent spirals swirling through plasma, and that actually are expanding. So somehow plasma is interconnecting all the neuronal system of the universe through the electricity that they are emitting. And there are a couple of questions that we can go through before you.
Sure, go for it.
So there is one that is for a while now. It says, does the whale sound is related to plasma? Well, sound is frequency, and it's all this these waves of sound being emitted at different ranges of frequency. If we take as in scale what's the plasma kilohertz, and what is the range of the frequency that the whales emit, well, there is a difference. So that's actually related to sonolocation. I would I would relate it more to cymatics, like all the sound being emanated by the whales, being all this cymatics. And when going through scales, not going directly from the sound to the plasma, if we go through sound through cymatics, then we can relate it to plasma. It's like this process, this hierarchy, this it's all about the order. So if we jump from one to another, then it might not add up. But if we go from sonolocation to sound to cymatics and then plasma, it's more visible for it to interconnect harmoniously. You want to say something about that?
Yeah, like sound physics can interpenetrate most things and have an effect on those things. So it can interconnect. So light language as an example. That's about the science of how much light you can put into your wave modulation of your voice and sound instrument in a projection that can be that can program things. So plasma is light. You put a bunch of that into your voice, it can have greater effect on those things with greater density. That's a simplistic aspect of it. Then Yeah, more effects into plasma. It's as you integrate more, you get rid of the limits. What's limiting it? That's a good question. There's a lot of constructs on the DNA limiting them. Attachment. A lot of it's made of things like evil energy, shadow energy, darkness, different types of constructs, imprisonment, attachment, enslavement, draining, energy harvesting, negative portals, all kinds of stuff. Now, once you detach all that stuff that shouldn't be part of the original hologram, which is light splitting infinitely, which is plasma, light, which then when it freezes, that physical matter, interesting how it's connected. There's also this other type of energy, which almost nobody I could probably think of is probably going to talk about it except me. So everything in existence has polarity concepts to it. Like with strong amounts of light, there's lack of light, which goes into darkness, dark energy. But then there's also with the universe, there's the lymphatic system of it, the antiverse, which is to prevent, like quarantine realms, things from invading this universe, and it puts those invaders there first as the line of defense. With every one of those things, I make the terms, people have made the terms matter and antimatter, and energy and anti-energy. So I'm using that as to describe the concepts of anti-versions of different types of energy. So there's, for plasma, there's antiplasma. What is the physics of these? This antiplasma and the system of antiplasma and why it exists. It doesn't. The physics of anti with the non-anti version of something, they don't, when they meet, they don't necessarily explode. They could. There's like explosion physics with certain things, not with every other type of polarized energy though, necessarily. So there's a lot of levels of plasma. I'll use the number at least 72. Let's go with that for the public consumption. There can always be more though, and depends how you scale and rate it and differentiate. So then there's the same number with antiplasma. A lot of the anti-energies, usually the antiverse, the difference between us and them seem to be they're more, instead of by hierarchical order of goodness and moral code and uniting with the universe, they're based on a hierarchical order of predator systems of what's the strongest being that can be at the top of the pyramid kind of concept. So this limits, antiplasma limits plasma, it drains it, it takes it away to a predator, and is usually dominated in that system. So there's ways psionically to overcome that, resolve it, get it off you, capture it, transmute it, distribute it to where it needs to go. Sometimes you need to destroy it. If it's really evil and bad, you may have to uncreate it. And that would be what limits 90% of what's limiting people's plasma body from increasing in density is the opposite of plasma, antiplasma.
Which leads to survive or thrive. Because when we're in a survival mode, actually it is more like as everything is interconnected, yet it also is directly connected to our capability to generate energy. If we are not generating enough energy, then we feel like we are collapsing. We start to feel anxiety. Or even if we are over generating energy, like everything is related to energy because we are energy. So For instance, when it comes then again to survival mode, when you are having leaks, like energy leaks, or something like there is another, let's say, entity or conscious being that is taking from your energy egregore, because actually, when it comes to all this field of reality, all these egregores that were created by institutions, you're we like if you're not aware of this, you're automatically funneling like perhaps 70% of your energy to all those egregores, and all that energy is plasma that they at different scales that they use to create and materialize other realities. So when you activate your plasma body, it is the communion of many factors. The first thing would be bringing in all your energy back from past lifetimes, from timelines, from all your fractals, like being deep in situations or events or memories that could be actually leaking or like absorbing a lot of your energy. So the first part, the first step is bringing all of that energy, and there are very specific ways to do so. Other thing is, and this would be very related to, because it's very extensive. For instance, when you stop nourishing all those programs that are bringing you more and more and more into that survival mode, because it can go at every scale. Every time that you put your power in a belief, it can be a religious belief, it can be a spiritual belief, like dogma, in any dogma, then you are funneling big part unconsciously to those egregores, which actually are having the fist from your plasma. And also, for instance, if you, why I'm saying this about how it is related to the plasma, why wouldn't it just be energy? For instance, we're talking that mitochondria are quite related to plasma, right? So the biggest amount of mitochondria reside in our guts. So our guts, we know that they generate a lot of emotions, or actually they are being that bridge that is expanding them or compressing them. So when we generate emotions, we are generating energy and motion. So big part, like most of the time, when those emotions are not acknowledged or something is done about them, then they immediately are funneled into the egregores that I was talking about, which are nourished by the survival mode. One example, economy. We say that if you are feeling very stressed and anxious about your economy, if you're living day by day and generating just, like this a small amount based on what you need, well, that can be translated into, mainly because maybe we can do another show about that, because then you're going into survival mode because you're just living by the day. What happens, for instance, at an emotional, as an emotional view, like in this social aspect? If you're trying to be part of something, if you're trying to be accepted, if you're trying to fulfill the requirements of any institution, any social group, any political group, any and so forth, then you are living in a survival mode, because unconsciously what you're saying to the universe is that if you are not part of that, then you die. I know it might sound kind of drastic, but that's how it's simple, how simply functions. Because if you don't take all your power within you and you keep on putting it in all those egregores, then you're putting your source of energy of life in them, and that puts you in a very vulnerable spot where they can choose over you and can come into at many scales. So when you are aware of your emotions, of your mitochondria, and know that they are harvesting a lot of energy through your emotions, then you're capable to take all that as, because it starts in water, then you emotions, and then you compress them, you compress them, and then they will start to generate all this electricity, which is the expansion of the heart. Actually, that's when it rises up. And then in the heart, it starts to generate all these alchemical processes that are reaching a higher expression of consciousness, of your consciousness, and connecting into the space memory, and then becoming love, and then being capable to access to even more complex forms of relating to space-time, time traveling, timeline shifting, uh, and so forth. So, um, yeah. Is there something you want to say?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about the survival thrival. And there's so much on plasma. So much. Uh, it's like building up so that you can survive and then get out of survival to thrive, which survival is in the lack, which is in the environment's not super friendly and requires more from you. So you need to reach deep inside you and pull things out to create with it or accumulate. As I recommend in harmony with everything else, depending on the environment, though, there, like the antivirus, it's a little bit harder to do things like that. So that's why they're like on a predatory system. It's hard to produce love, and when things are coming at you in the heart spectrum. So that's why when you're in survival, it usually means you're stuck in the root chakra, and the other higher functions of the chakras, the positive emotions, the power, etc., are waiting till you feel safer. Otherwise, things would steal more from you, and so it's preventing that as a survival mechanism. So when you like the lockdowns, put everyone back into the survival mechanism of the root chakra, and they had to build themselves back up, and we're still feeling the effects of that. We come back stronger each time. Even if our tower got wrecked, we learn from it and we build it stronger and stronger, and we learn what we need to make ourselves feel safe again. Fortress, offense, defense, boundaries, safety bubble, the neutralization, the loving detachment, the destruction if you need it, the teeth if something really incurs on your boundaries, and then eventually being able to turn it into the love frequency again and rise above that need for really needed and protect yourself and getting out of that situation, which happens when it's a survivalist world out there. And there's so many things testing our boundaries because the different societies and consciousness and ET races that are stuck in that survival mechanism that want to mess with our pie and our chess game. And then us being a antidote for them eventually because of our greater capability to get out of that. There's once you build up enough and it's strong foundation like a pyramid, everything else becomes way easier, and you can outcreate and dance around the keto everything that comes at you. And you get the higher thought processes, you get the rewards, the universe aligns with you. And thriving is the unity with the whole universe and it not sending as many shit tests at you to challenge you. And even with those tests, you are way beyond that in level, so they're like nothing. So you've already passed it. So with plasma, going back in the concepts of enlightenment, enlightening your load and releasing, letting go, and increasing the light you have within, which is plasma. And the saints of old and the Buddhists and the monks and the people that meditate for a while, and they are demonstrating greater luminosity from increased density of plasma compressed to where they start shining and are in paintings in different places of their achieved enlightenment, and then abilities that come with that achievement and growth and direction towards greater consciousness and releasing and what's holding one back, transcending is a good thing to note on that. And then going into what's holding us back, I kind of use some words to describe anti-plasma in the like predatory sense. It's initially we want to have boundaries for that type of thing from incurring on us, but then we realize we're everything. So then we realize the polarities are and differentiation is ultimately one, such as illness and healing is ultimately one. How does that work? Well, what is illness but a indication that your body needs attention and more given to it, and it is in lack. So it's a spectrum. So healing is when it is fully attended in that variation, and the getting to it is the process. So the same thing with that, and they're connected. They're like the yin and the yang, plasma, anti-plasma. So one might be more dark than the other, but it is if they're working in unity, as they should be within, when you get a mastery of both, then it is the protection to the light, the masculine, the offense, the darkness to protect the light so that it may shine greater and greater so no evil can come in and mess with it, because darkness isn't the same as evil. It's just more susceptible to evil, especially if it's alone and isolated. So when the masculine and feminine work together, the plasma and the anti-plasma work together in harmony, and you bring them together with boundaries and not messing with each other and bring them together like lovers, then it's protected. The anti-plasma will protect the plasma so it can shine greater and then achieve those greater levels of plasma. Also, with the fractals of all existence and all consciousness, the source of all, branching out on all of these creations, such as plasma. So one is the branching off into what I call the source of plasma and anti-plasma. Those have a school everyone can go through and talk to them. And everything in this universe has taken some hits and wounds and are dealing with things and big challenges and weights on their shoulder from the management of everything, authority. So they can definitely use some help with things. So if you're good at certain things, you can do that for them. Help restore them to their greater power. They'll reward you. You gain more plasma coming your way as like a river of abundant plasma.
Yeah, it's like finding the treasure of the Ark of the Covenant. It reminds me of, speaking about enlightenment, like when all of these saints, and the case of the saints, have their solar disk behind, it can also be considered to the fact that they already ignited their plasma body. The same Leonardo da Vinci put it in the took it into consideration with the Vitruvius Man, calling it the sphere of truth. Why truth? Because it's a coherent field, even though the plasma is expanding through these electric rays, it also generates a coherent field that allows to go directly to a specific point, which is actually what we need to shape our reality. We need to be focused and direct all our light in a very specific form in order to expand. So the nature is within it, within how plasma behaves, you know. And also, for instance, uh, going back to the biology and the mitochondria, you know, when the mitochondria are these organelles which are actually very, very dynamic. What would mean dynamic? They're all the time expanding their volume and compressing it. Adaptability. When we want to bring in something like a specific ingredient to our reality, to nourish and to fit from that what we see in another form of consciousness, in this case the mitochondria, that capability of adaptation, then the more that we connect with these bodies, with these elements, the more that we are activating them and igniting their capabilities within us at a higher scale. And for instance, it's very interesting what you say about the antiplasma, because we don't usually get to stop and think, like, if there is one aspect, there is most likely that there is the other aspect to it. And when we do that, is that we get to reach the wholeness. And for instance, when we are talking about, well, I don't know if to go to a lot of Egyptian cosmology, but I think this is kind of important because everyone is like very into the Ark of the Covenant and, you know, like all that and how it would be related to plasma. There are two main components when it comes to the Ark of the Covenant and plasma, which is actually our plasma body, the sphere, the atom. So the Atlanteans used this to power up also a lot, all the pyramidal structures. You know, imagine that we all, as a humanity, have our plasma body activated. And then we have all this sphere pulsing, emitting this electricity, this free energy, this coherent field, interconnecting us all in higher forms of resonance. Then what starts to happen is that the earth itself starts to activate its own plasma body, and that all that antiplasma, as Sean was naming it, starts to generate that vacuum force within the plasma and the antiplasma, this vacuum force, and reaching into the going beyond gravity, and then being capable to levitate not only us, because that's also something possible when you activate your plasma body, yet also the earth being capable of evolving into this spaceship, this mothership. And yeah, with that will be evolving into a much higher level of consciousness.
To go off of what you were saying, I was reading some very interesting just now. Like I was getting telepathic text messages from the source of plasma and anti-plasma, which I like to unite with everything, even things misunderstood things, and a lot of the dark or evil beings out there are overwhelmed and corrupted and aren't always doing it on their command. So like their shadows out of control and doing shit that they don't want. though it's important to figure out which is which and who's doing it consciously and making the decision. But like the source of evil, like, you know, we're like going back. Some of these older sources are getting overwhelmed, and so they need healing and help and support, and we give rewards. It was demonstrating to me that both the source of plasma and anti-source were taking big hits. I read when were some of the biggest wounds. Fall of Atlantis, something I call the fall of Egypt, which may, you know, apply to certain exiting out of Egypt times, Akhenaten, the Moses times, stuff like that. And there's things going on with the Arks of the Covenants, which there some postulate that it might be one. There's at least two for sure, as like in stories, there's one in heaven. So then it's like the story's concept is it's been replicated. Maybe it's an ET technology. It seems to also power the crap out of pyramids if you put them in there. The cool thing is, I know that it condenses a lot of plasma and anti-plasma together, and it can be abused, especially if it's stolen. And it's apparently moved quite a bit and been used by multiple beings. So there's a variety of crap that could have happened. And still be happening, because where is it now? And also, is there just one? Because there's multiple pyramids. Why would there just be one if there's multiple pyramids that can hold and be turned on like a super generator? Yeah, so I'm reading big wounds during those periods of time, which is interesting. So in the use of it and abuse to and its greater capacity to draw large amounts of plasma from very far distances, which is interesting. So to where it can harm even the sources, branches of it. So I thought that was interesting.
Yes, it is. And well, I know throughout our last trip to Egypt, which actually Anna was asking if that's what happened to her in the temple. Yeah, when it comes to the brain, we can, like, the process of activating our aten or our plasma. Well, it starts with the aten, like this sphere coming above your head, but then again, it surrounds you all and becomes all this, like your electromagnetic field, but it's just your plasma body. So to reach that point where it becomes like this sphere above our heads, it's this process where we require from all of our body, but mainly like going through our solar plexus, then to our heart, then to our higher heart, which is very important, the thymus gland. Because, I mean, I won't go through that, but it's like this key part to our cube. What's our cube? Well, it's related to our inner arc. What's our inner arc? Yeah, it would be like where we harvest and compress all this plasma.
You can replicate the arc in your own body.
Exactly. All this plasma body, which is all the primordial information of not only our DNA, but about the universe. And actually it's quite connected to the Orion's Nebula. But that's another topic.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, the keyhole. Okay, so yeah, and there's a lot to do with this, and it affects a lot of things. So it's building your greater plasma body, which is like tendrils of light that can reach into the unseen and do things for you, which is another layer. And there are light beings, there are plasma beings that master this, that spent lifetimes and whatever amount of time they live, depending on where they come from, like beings in the sun, etc. There's a lot of stars, so there's a lot of plasma being types, and what they've mastered, and the reaching into all the different aspects of reality with plasma and being able to do that. So mastering each layer of the chakra and each ability of those spectrums with plasma. Same thing with other elemental bodies. there are whole races that are they get really good at a certain type of technology. Let's say like they're made of a consciousness made of fire, a consciousness made of water, consciousness made of air, like sylphs and all that. We're a combination of all of that. We're also super hybrid, so we even have more of spectrums of elemental bodies that we can branch off and activate in our being. So we have the super technology to reach into all these other places and master all these layers. And there are guides and teachers that sometimes come to us in those forms and can visit us in dreams and visions and whatever way they can come to us and show us, and we hear them, and to remind us of our greater self because of this big game and the amnesia barriers and all that. So we can help amplify abundance and many other layers to get out of survival. Opposite, I saw the question, opposite of survival is thrival. And to get into that, survival is lack, but if you're good at surviving, that means you can live well and efficiently and are good skilled wise in an environment of lack where it doesn't supply you with much, so you do everything yourself. In thrival, you get to the point where you've surrounded yourself with things as well as creations constructed and built energetically non-lack, abundance, to where it rewards you and makes it easy. Either you did it yourself or the environment brings it to you.
Well, actually, there is like a very simple way to put it. Like, it's not, because it can get confused. It's different, the survival mode than the survival instinct. The survival instinct is inherent within us because that's what helps us to survive in like catastrophic events. If there is a tsunami, due to your survival instinct, you're more capable to survive. But a survival mode is where you're bringing all the time the fear to death. And the fear of death is not recognizing yourself through an interconnected universe, because you are going to dissolve into nothing at some point. So then that activates. And then again, it can resume at many scales, psychologically speaking. Like, your programs can feel like they are fading out and they will die. So then they try to grab into your reality and not leave from your program, from your way of thinking, your cognitive thinking. It can go spiritually wise, that being harvested in a lot of primary programs, which could be, for instance, the original sin, or the depth of life, or and so forth. But I didn't answer Alana's question about if that's what happened.
Just go off that and then go back to it?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for bringing up the distinction. There's survival mode, and you're in fight or flight, and you're in struggle, versus you do well at surviving, which is a skill and a psionic ability in the empowerment despite the odds, and going into survival of the fittest, which can be mastered. And then and that can be looked in how bad the environment is, or the circumstance and lack, such as if you were to go all the way to a hell realm or something, and how bad it would be to how good you are at surviving in that. And then beyond that, into thriving as the light to the darkness, which you're doing well despite anything, and you're abundant and you're emitting. So like survival is like a yin implosion that is in lack or take, and then thrival is the explosion of emitting generously. You go outward. So Alana.
Yes, as survival, you're afraid of life. It's what would be also living in fear.
Mhm.
and thriving would be living in love.
Yep. Ego, the fight or flight, the adrenal response,
Yes.
overwhelm.
Yes, and the simulated reality fits from that. Actually, all the programs, egregores are anchored more and more and more when people and humanity lives from fear, because then they are like in a constant war. And how can you connect with your higher self or the most evolved expression of yourself if you're continuously distracted by being in the present because you're afraid that something can happen or could happen to you?
Mm.
So it's like living in a constant war.
Right.
And
The tug of war on your reality, taken away from you, pulling, draining, attachment, instead of safety and the ability to build up
exactly,
like that plasma.
expanding like that plasma, exactly, like love itself. So
We'll answer some questions, but then
Yes.
we gotta go.
Yes. So then again, after going through the thymus, it accesses in a very specific way to the celestial vault, which is a part in our brain located in the insular lobe that interconnects directly to the stars, like how the stars work are connected to our brain in very specific patterns, generating very specific patterns. So then it comes and rises. So, and that's connected to Hathor, like having many people call it the solar disk, but it was not the solar disk. The solar disk is another thing. The orb or the plasma sphere is what comes from our illumination process. So,
Halo.
yeah, that was
Halo.
yeah, like Hathor. And that's why it was a pure connection with her. Okay. Of what would happen if, and then you started connecting with all that plasma tech.
That's the question right here.
Yeah, I already delivered. Yeah, yes.
That's the opposite of we got that. When your nervous system is in parasympathetic, it's the opposite of survival mode. Yep. Rest and digest. Relaxation. Cortisol. Okay. Thank you all. If there's not any more questions, thank you for coming. So let's go into the process. So what do you? How can you? How does one get more of this information on plasma? How to increase density and consciousness, and receive more, and understand how to get out of survival to thrival?
Well, actually, we will be now in the conference in Florida. Full disclosure, you will be there giving a talk.
Just talk about what you're gonna do. I'll talk about that one.
Yeah, I'm just giving an intro.
And yeah, we'll be if you want to see us in person, we'll be at the Full Disclosure Now conference, and if you want to buy tickets to that, it's at fulldisclosuremovement.org. Get them while you can. And there's a if you can't make it, there's a online streaming, so look into that. You can contact Brian Sang for more details on that, and you'll find his links. And also on Facebook, easy to contact him, and the website. We'll be giving presentations and giving lots of gifts and products out and cool information. Be doing readings for people. We'll have a booth. I'll be presenting a bunch on how to get rid of negative targeting, psionic protection, and the different abilities. Get rid of negative ET targeting and making yourself abduction proof, and then how to contact your positive ET soul family more, have it opened up to where you experience more and get rid of the blocks, and what are the blocks to experiencing them more, as well as some secret information that barely anyone talks about ever, and some stories about myself and ETs, and ways to get rid of things that are limiting you. and we're doing presentations as well. Besides that, what will you be doing yours on?
Well, uh, well, cheerleader. I will be giving a class talking precisely about how to activate your plasma body and going through that process at many scales, like in relation to the stars, in relation to your physical body, how you can unfold it in a very specific way with codes, with frequencies, making it more easy, making it easier, and how to start using it to expand your energy source, to restore it actually, to be more into that unlimited state, and also how to achieve regeneration process in your cells, a little bit of epigenetics, through plasma, through the holographic field, how to generate, how to rejuvenate, and all this in a very practical form. You just use your body, give us very specific commands, very specific frequencies with some geometries, and knowing which points exactly, which points are the ones that you require to access in order to open the vault, which is very important, you know, and also how to use all that earthly part, or that all that emotional part, as a the source. I call it the black fuel, as the gas, um, in order to expand your plasma sphere. Because as we were saying in the beginning, all those emotions, allow you to expand your plasma sphere into very at a very high scale. And then, yeah, that's what I will be giving the class about. It will be theoretical and practical. Yeah, it will be very fun. It's an extension of the online courses that I'm giving, and that have been having amazing results in people already, shifting their reality like 360 degrees.
And how can people contact you to join those online courses? I also have a workshop.
For the workshops, and they can write to me to the email that I will be writing in the description below this video, and also in my webpage, and also any of my media. They can write to me in private, and I can also, that's also a way. I'm opening now the second group in Spanish for Spanish speakers, and the first group in English. And yeah, I'm very excited. This is one of the biggest upgrades in the human body that is required to experience a more harmonious reality with everything that is happening right now. It's the inflection point is the torsion. Is the torsion to actually own this reality, be sovereign beings, and be participative and choose on our reality.
All right. So, and any other ways to contact you?
Well, email. Yeah, going to the conference as well. Or coming to any any of the trips that we will be offering at some point. So, yeah, website, email.
Can you name your website and email?
Yeah, I will be writing it. It's
Okay.
the name is kind of omnivision.hunuh. So
Okay, I got you.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll be doing tours around the world, different places. So look out for that. Next one's Mexico, different pyramids to bring them to life and turn them on as a mechanism that heals the world, and get exchanged some abilities and superpowers that they're good at in exchange for that and helping them. And whoever wants to sign up for that and gain some superpowers, let us know. Email us and send us in the comments that you want to be part of those tours. We go into other places as well, possibly England for some Avalon stuff, and Ireland, Japan, possibly India, and some other ones that are on our radar. And let us know if you're interested in any particular, and we'll put you on the list for who's interested when we spark it up. When we get enough people, bam, the show starts going, and we're collecting all these different sacred places that will give you powerful activations and make your life change beyond your wildest dreams. And I'm Sean Bond of YssaH League, YssaHLeague.com with a PS. And you can reach me at YssaHLeague at gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Sean Bond, SeanBond, and other social media. Feel free to follow me there. Contact me and let me know if you want some sessions. Do cheap clearings and healings for anyone that want to try it out and go into where you feel so much more better and lighter in your heart, get rid of depression and pain. It's beautiful. I get so many testimonials and good reviews on it. It's like miracles for people. Also do one of the rare people on this planet that can do depossession and you can get rid of entities for you. So it's a big thing. And I do big consultations. You can ask whatever you want, and we give you and activate some superhuman abilities. Also do a workshop. So if you want to be a part of the secret mystery school where I teach some very powerful stuff, let me know and message that you want to be a part of that. And I'll add you to the groups involved, and which will alert you for anytime we're doing that. And she does that really well as well. Can you talk about that more in depth? I know you talked about it a little bit.
Thank you. Well, understanding how our body functions and getting it to function at a multi-dimensional state is one of my passions. So there are very specific ways how you can activate, how you can increase your IQ, how you can reach telekinesis, telepathy, like enhance all those capabilities or activate them. Also, increase your levels of energy. Like besides activating your plasma body, there are also other ways by activating your DNA. And activating your DNA comes, it's the result of a lot of information that I started remembering while I was living in Egypt and connecting to very ancient and archaic archives coming from different arcs. And that leads us to unfold the DNA and its plasma potential. But everything starts with knowing how the brain functions in a very specific way and how to push very specific buttons. And well, that's one part. And also, like, I love to support people to remember their life mission, their life purpose. And I do it through translating their source code, which is the light body. When you connect with that field of information, you're capable to start evolving at a holographic from the holographic field at a more rapid pace, to say it somehow, and a very powerful one. So we go in order to remember and to be free to embody your life mission. It's important to release a lot of things, a lot of layers, and then it's a beautiful process of rebirth in order to emerge as your light body, in alignment to your light body, and then expand that geometry in manifesting from the sixth dimension, where everything of this reality was built, was constructed. So then things start to happen faster to you. So it's a very powerful tool, and a very like a lot of responsibility required for that. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's a unified consciousness. It expands your heart.
Yes, and also amplifying your super intelligence, luminosity, and if you've seen the movie Limitless or Lucy, and expanding your consciousness. She's very good at that. She knows a lot of languages and remembers things easily. It's great. I'm also working on the blocks of memory and restoration of that. So contact either of us for increasing your intelligence in greater capacity. Yeah, and I also do little videos on the membership site for different abilities, such as levity. If you want to look into if you want to go down the mystery school of levitation, purification, healing, emotional body mastery, all the type of abilities. I'm gonna be coming out with more, and let me know if you want to increase your abundance, because I can help you with that as well, and she's good at that as well. And did that say anything of interest before we close this off?
Yeah, it's a beautiful message actually for all.
Yeah.
It's much of this information resonates as truth from creator of all that is. Have patience. People eventually and sometimes quite rapidly catch up to these alchemical plasma concepts. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the support. And
Yes.
yeah, if you want to see more information on plasma and getting out of survival, leave a comment in the description of how you leave a comment under the video of how this has helped you, and you want to see more, as well as share this information and get us past the algorithm censorship, shadow banning, and it has at least one friend, please, and click that like button and subscribe, and get it out there, please.
Yeah, and also if you're curious to know more about plasma, you can also contact me and have a session where you can do a trial, to see what your plasma body is capable to do, and yeah, you will feel the experience, the plasma experience, which is amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for joining us. Spread this far and wide, and the more we see in views, the more we'll be like, oh, you love plasma. We're gonna just bombard you with plasma like the sun, so that will encourage us. So let us know if you really like it, and hope you all have a wonderful night. Really good seeing you all. Beautiful words of encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you all. It was a pleasure, and yeah, all your comments, questions inspires us to bringing more and more information and building in this solid tribe that allows us to remember that it is possible, and that we're already doing and creating a new reality where all of us are supporting and receptive and open up to recreate new stories that lead us and get us closer to our highest version of ourselves. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you're feeling not enough, limited in this reality, in survival mode, set your heart ablaze. Good night, everybody. Have a
Good
wonderful
night.
one. Let me do this one.